with us today. I'm sharing my screen. I hope you can see the correct one. Yes? Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, so thanks again for joining us today. And today we're going to be discussing Module 5, Unit 3, Week 2. Oops. So I'm going to start off just briefly with going over the agenda for today's session. So we'll work in a similar manner to the past live sessions that we've had together. So first off, just a brief introduction to Unit 3, Week 2, followed by an opportunity for you to provide some feedback on the results matrix assignment that you completed by the end of last week. Then we'll have a brief presentation from Deanne on the multi-year operational plan and time for questions and answers. Then we'll take you through a brief description of the Week 2, Unit 3 assignment. And we will then move into reviewing a brief review of what you have ahead for the next week in terms of workload. And then we will break into our groups, one for upper secondary and one for TVET, where we'll have the opportunity to review the results matrix assignment and discuss any outstanding questions. So first off, as suggested, we'll be this week looking at the multi-year operational plan. So quite excited to be moving ahead and looking at these additional tools for implementation for the education sector plan. So we hope that you're as excited as we are to take a closer look at this. Now, before we move ahead with the presentation on the multi-year operational plan, I just wanted to open the floor to see if there were any questions about, or if you'd like to provide any feedback about your experience on the results matrix assignment. Did you find it challenging? Did you feel like, it was quite straightforward based on the work that you did on the priority program matrix? It's over to you. It's your opportunity to tell us how you experienced this last week working on your group assignment. So I'm just going to see if you can either raise your hand or just jump in directly. I'm not seeing any hands, I don't think. No feedback on the results matrix assignment? It went smoothly? Yes, Michael. Oh. Sorry, did someone want to jump in? I'm sorry, I can't see exactly who, if there's anyone who's trying to unmute. I'm trying, but I'm not sure. So just jump in if you would like to share your feedback.
Yes.
Please go ahead. Is that George?
Yes, please.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. I'm in Group 1, General Secondary Access and Equity. For me, I would say that the assignment was straightforward because what we had done earlier on, the program strategies, the objectives, and the expected results, the outcomes, all these things we had done earlier on. But I think the challenge came when we were looking for the baseline and then basically the baseline and then some of the data to fill in this result matrix. But most of the things we had done, like the targets, we had done the source of verification, and the responsible person was, I think it wasn't, that was something that was new, but it was also straightforward because once you have looked at an activity, then you know where the activity would fall. For us, maybe the other thing is that we had looked at 4 strategies, but through the guidance of Diane, we were able to look at also the 4th objective, and we put it there. So for me, I found it exciting, and I don't think there was something new. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, George. Very helpful indeed. And the idea about the work is that we're building, you're kind of progressively seeing, and actually, if you even think back to our earlier sessions at the beginning of Module 5, you can kind of see how progressively we've grown from even your initial problem trees. So that's kind of the idea and the way that the module was designed, to be able to kind of take additional steps each week. So very helpful to hear that feedback. Anyone else before we hand the floor over to Deanne to go ahead with the presentation on the multi-year operational plans? Augustine, please go ahead.
Maybe to reflect a bit on the experience for our group. I think yes, we're feeling this type of work like the cumulative effort from previous weeks. So try to get the information from the other pages, make sure that we take in consideration all the comments for previous sessions. So yes, I think it's a real good exercise. One type of comment or suggestion, and I know it's a question, is could be possible to have in the same document all the trace of effort, meaning like, for example, the simulation model, the objectives, the plan, to make a reference inside the same, for example, the same type of Excel document, or is something which is feasible, or we prefer, or maybe is there any reason to have like in separate documents and formats, or cannot be established all in the same type of document? That's a question.
I think that's a very good question, and thanks for the feedback. I mean, the idea and what you'll see as you move ahead in this context is that the various documents that you're preparing should be aligned. So you should have the same information that's going across the documents. So I mean, and you'll have time to refine that and to sort of fine tune to make sure that that's the case before you submit your work. So absolutely, the same information should be across the documents.
Okay.
I hear something else from Augustine as well, but perhaps I'm not sure, because I was a little bit confused by your question, Augustine. If I just pop in.
Yeah, please.
Are you saying that you would like in an Excel sheet to have the different, for instance, all the different document, let's say the simulation model, the result matrix, etc.?
Yeah, is type of a question, or what could be the advantages or disadvantages, just to extend the simulation model into a complete like plan format with all the reference there.
Oh, no, I'm still not clear what you're asking.
So in the so we have the simulation model, but in the simulation is just with letters, but the narratives that can be like in another sheet, for example.
Okay, I get your point. Okay, the simulation model is not part of the plan when you submit your plan. The simulation model is your tool to help cost your plan, and usually that's why it's a fully separate document. But you can also have so usually what you have, and we will see that in later. Perhaps we will review that later in the PowerPoint, and I will get back to your point when we discuss the PowerPoint. I think it will make more sense, and then we can at least provide some context. Okay. And then if we are not responding to your question, you just raise it again. But I think I will respond to it during the PowerPoint later.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Maybe Deanne, over to you then for the presentation. Unless there's anyone else who has something urgent they'd like to raise about the results matrix assignment, just being cognizant of time.
Let's move.
Sounds great.
Because I think we have a lot on our plate today.
Yes, absolutely.
If you don't mind, stop it sharing, and I will share the PowerPoint.
Of course. Just 1 second. Sorry, I'm just getting used to this. There we go.
Sorry. Share screen. Oops, me too. Here it is. Do you see my screen? No, I don't think you do. Do you see that?
We see it, but
yes, we do. Yeah, it's just not in presenter mode.
No, but then I don't find the link anymore. Where's this link? It's weird because I don't have the full. I have something weird on my screen. Sorry. Amaranta, can you help? Because I don't see anymore. I have something strange on my screen. I cannot.
You cannot put it in presentation mode.
I don't see it. I don't see the.
But
the
it's just
the bottom.
because I see it. It is down on your screen. You know, you have notes, and then you have some symbols on your screen. And then it's the one that it's on the last one on your right.
Slide control.
Close to your Zoom.
Like
Yes.
a glass.
How did you give me the...
Slideshow.
No, but it's not
Send
that.
Yes, that one.
No, but I.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Yes.
This one.
Don't worry. Yes. And
Oh
then
my
you
God.
swap,
Oh la
swap
la.
presenter view.
Okay, now I get it. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on. I'm good. Sorry about that. I feel like I'm a beginner. Oh la la. Okay, guys. So we're good. So, okay. So as Tanya mentioned, today we are aiming for a kind of our last PowerPoint presentation. And we will be covering, very important phase, which is about spanning out, implementing an arrangement. And this time, we will be looking at the multi-year operation plan or multi-year action plan. So we will use those terms, annual action plan and operation plan kind of interchangeably. Yeah. So do not be a kind of a surprise if sometimes we use action plan and sometimes annual operation plan. So today's presentation, we will go step by step on how to develop a multi-year operation plan. Then we will look at certain aspects related to implementing arrangement and capacity issues, as well as the last steps of ESP, which consist of validation and endorsement. So operation or action plan are very helpful for successful implementation and monitoring of the ESP. What are exactly action plans? So action plans outline the detailed activities for a specific period of the plan, including information on specific action steps, timing, role, responsibilities, and costs. Action plan should generally be kind of linked up to medium-term expenditure framework when they exist, or at least to national budget processes, so that really you can ensure proper funding of your activities. So action plan are either annual, when they cover 1 year, or multi-year. In our case here, we are proposing, over 5 years. This is an example of a multi-year action plan. And as you can see, there are detailed action steps for each activities. Along we have costing information, the body responsible. Talia, can you unmute everyone? Can you mute everyone? Sorry.
Yes, sorry, I'm trying to do that. Just one moment.
Okay, thanks.
I will.
And as well, we have issues related, so I would say, to the person responsible for the implementation, the timing over the as well as the timing over the 5-year period. So you will need to indicate when the activity will occur. So now we will go together on a step-by-step process to how to fill that template. So you will see it's quite straightforward, and it's a little bit like the result matrix. You need to go back to your priority program and just take the strategies and activities and put them in the relevant boxes here. The next step will be more than to break down each activity into a detailed action. So with detailed action, and you need to ask yourself, okay, if I want to undertake that activity, what are the different steps I need to carry out in order for that activity to be developed? So for instance, let's take activity 111. Activity 1111, so it's a little bit, all those figures. So the activity 1 is to foster free public early childhood education through assessing sustainable strategies to reduce or remove school fees. So in this activity, we know that at the end of the day, we want to have a study. We want to have a report that is spelling out how we will carry out, what are the strategies that are available to us to reduce or remove school fees. So we need to understand how we, for this study, do we want to hire an international consultant? Do we want to rely on internal or do that internally at the ministry level? So that's the type of discussion you need to ask yourself. In addition, would you like the study to be? How would you like the findings of the study to be known? Let's say we want the study to be produced by an external consultant. So the first action will be to hire that consultant. And then you need to ask yourself, okay, how many days you want that consultant to be? No, first let's go for the different steps. So you need to hire a consultant, then you want the results of the study to be discussed during, for instance, a 2-day workshop, and then you want to make sure that the activities are being disseminated. So once you have done that for an activity, you can go to the next activity and decide also, for instance, if we look at the second activity, which is about implementing school feeding program. Oops, sorry, I need to go back to that. So for instance, to implement school feeding program, you may just think, okay, what are the different steps needed? So one will be to determine EC schools selection criteria for school feeding program. The second activity would be to procure and distribute, for instance, utensil and kitchenware to schools. And the last one would be to prepare and serve food to children. And so you do the same for each activity. Usually you don't need to go to too much detail, especially for multi-year operation plan. And we advise, around 3 to 5 steps are sufficient for you to cover the activity. So once you have specified the activities, the idea would be to identify the responsible body. So, for instance, okay, hold on, okay, this is not working, it's okay. So it will be to identify the responsible body for implementing the activity, as well as to identify when this activity will occur. And then when you know when the activity will occur, you just put an X. For instance, we want all this activity to be done during the first year. That's why we have kind of put an X in each of in year 1 for each of the activity. So the next phase is really now, which it's really the one that will be the trickiest, perhaps for you. It's to cost those activities. So let's go back to our activity 1, and we have to look at action by action. So to do that, let's say we want to hire a consultant. So remember, we want to hire a consultant to do the study. At this stage, we are aiming for an international consultant. So we know that, let's say, on international prices, the consultant would be needed for 50 days. So we put the quantity here, 50 in the right cell. So here it's 50 days. You need the consultant for 50 days. We know that the unit cost of an international consultant, so the daily rate is $600. So if you want to hire that consultant at $600 for 50 days, the total amount of the activity or to hire the international consultant will be 600 times 50. It will cost you $30,000 over the activity period. Then you want to cost the 2-day workshop. So here we are providing you with some sort of flat rate about how much of a 2-day workshop costs, but usually you will need to estimate the number of participants. If you want the cost of the catering, the cost of the renting the venue, you need also to have a per diem for the participant, etc. But let's say we have all computed that, and it come up to $8,000. You want to conduct 1 workshop, so the quantity is 1. So overall, the action, the cost of this action is $8,000, which is the cost to hold a 2-day workshop. We want 1 workshop, so it come up to $8,000. Then the last activity refer to the printing of materials. So here you want to print and distribute 500 copies of the report to, let's say, different agencies, different perhaps district education officers, etc. So you know that to print and to ship that means include the transport of the printed copy to the right beneficiaries is around $15. So $15 times 500, the total cost of this action is $7,500. Then what you need to do is to sum up the overall cost of the activities. So in our case, you will sum up 30,000 plus 8,000 plus 7,500, and it come up to $4,500. So pretty, that's how we do the costing for an activity. And at the end of the day, you do that for all activities that you have in your plan. So after you, sorry, okay, I'm a little bit, let's go back here. So right now, as you will see, we will not provide you with unit costs for your program. You will have to make them up. When you will be doing your multi-year operation plan, you will have to make up, okay, your own prices using some, whatever you think is feasible, given some costs you have already in the simulation model. So usually you will continue to use this type of steps to cost all the activities. Some of them, remember, are already in this financial simulation model. So you just need to take, for instance, everything related to school feeding program, for cash transfers, from school building, teacher training, what else? Textbooks. All those costs are in the simulation model. So you just need to take the figures that are in simulation model and put them here. But sometimes it does not mean that, let's say, all the costs are properly handled in the simulation model. And so you will need to see what is included in the simulation and not included in simulation for a given activity. But usually we try in the simulation model to have the activity that is comprising all sub-actions or all actions in the cost. Let me give you an example here. If we, sorry, this is automatic. For instance, let's take the school feeding program activity. In this program, we are, for instance, in the simulation model. So let me go back to that. In the activity school feeding program, you have three main steps. Oops, sorry. You have three main steps. You want to first to disseminate EC school selection criteria for school feeding program. This activity has no cost because we assume that it's an activity that will be borne by the department. So it is within the department that that MOE staff will sit together and decide what will be the criteria. Then you need to procure and distribute your stencil and kitchenware. Kitchenware, so you have a specific price for that. It's in our case, it was $100 per set, and you aim for 500 schools. So the total is $50,000. Ideally, you want this cost to be in the simulation model. Okay, this will ease your costing and also help you in assessing how many schools you need to target on a yearly basis. The last one, action steps, is to prepare and serve food to children. The ration is $150 per child per year. And you are aiming for 25,000 kids by the end of the plan. So here as well, this will be drawn from the simulation model, okay? But let's say that, yeah, so as much as possible, try to have like those big actions that are in the simulation model, because they will allow you to ease the costing and as well the kind of, how can I say, the rollout of the activity. But for instance, activity one, nothing will be in the financial model. These are two small activities, and they are more like spot. They are once for all. So you don't put that in the simulation model. So you will ask me later if you understand what goes in the simulation model and what does not go in the simulation model. And when an activity has no cost, you just put 0 in the unit cost cell, and as well as the total budget for the action. So it comes to zero. So it's okay to have a no-cost activity. So here just the template that is updated for annual operation plan or annual action plan. So it is pretty much the same. But what would change is really about the timing. So here, usually for annual operation plan, they cover an annual, so it's about for 1 year. And sorry. And here, for instance, instead of having a yearly timing, it's a monthly. And you can also find templates with quarterly, but I will strongly aim for monthly, timing, because it will help you with the monitoring of the activity. So let's now go to another element of the M&E and the multi-operation plan, which is the organization structure for plan implementation. Sorry, I said M&E because actually it's very close. So the implementation structure, you will see very close to the M&E structure. And ideally, you need really to build on existing structure. So as you will see, and as you remember from the M&E structure, we have here a 3-tiered structure with a kind of policy level 1, technical level, and operational level tier. So at the bottom, we have the lowest level, where we have the department. And department, as you remember, they are the one in charge of overseeing specific programs. So they will be responsible for preparing annual operation plans and to do the day-to-day monitoring and program implementation. And you see here how monitoring goes close with close hands with plan implementation. So you cannot distinguish one from the other at this level, at least. Then at the next level, you have the strategic monitoring committee, which will oversee the overall plan implementation in a kind of comprehensive way. It will ensure coordination between the different departments and also deliberate about high-level decision to keep plan implementation on track. This committee is generally composed of department directors and chaired by a high-ranking officer. Moving to the policy level, you will have the joint steering committee that has been created actually during the plan preparation and should be maintained for plan implementation. So this committee will be in charge of ensuring in charge of linking the different mechanism between the ministry of them related to between the ministry and line ministry as well as major DPs, and it will advise the minister on major policy decisions to be taken at different moments, especially during annual reviews, but as well midterm and the final reviews. So it's important that to ensure that this implementation structure are aligned to countries' needs and existing structures, so they will very much be different from one country to the other. Also, one aspect of the plan is it is important for the plan to be implemented that the ministry have the right capacities to implement the plan. So so it will be important that the issue of the capacity of the plan is being addressed in the plan itself. So it can be either based on a single out in one of the chapter, especially the M&E chapter and the implementation chapter arrangement, but it also can fall within a specific within some specific priority programs. There are 4 major things that area that needs to be examined. I'm not going to enter into detail. I will ask you to listen carefully to the PowerPoint because I think there are things that we are not going to touch base directly during today's session, but usually we look at the public sector management and institution capacity, the effectiveness of the educational administration. We look also at the profile and competencies of staff, and we look also at the ed effectiveness principle. So I will jump to another part of the slide, but I will really strongly to listen carefully at the PowerPoint and see that more in detail. Let's jump to the final part of this, which relates to the ESP validation and endorsement process. So which are the processes that will help to complete the plan. But first, let's look at the content of the plan, and this is where it will respond to Augustine concern. So usually you have the plan that so the plan is usually drafted by a series of groups, each one focusing on specific areas of the plan, like we are doing today. You know, we have a group on access, a group on equity, or a group on quality, and group on management, etc. So we will consolidate all those inputs into one document. And here we are providing you with an example of a kind of outline of given, ESP, and that's generally what we are proposing here in IAP. So first we start with the education sector analysis, which provide a kind of rough, summary of key results of, so what is the state of the education system? What are the major issues from which we will derive the policy priority and strategies that will form chapter 2. Then there is a priority, the chapter 3, which is about programs and activities, and it relates to your priority program. So chapter 3 is about the priority program. Then we have the cost and financing that extract key information from the simulation model, and especially all the discussion about the financing gap. Then we have the MEL framework, where we will have three parts. The MEL framework, as we have said last week, is about the MEL arrangement, who will be doing what when, then the key performance indicator, and the result matrix. The result matrix you have been working on today. This result matrix usually can be put in the annex because it's kind of bulky. So it can be built in an annex either in a Word shape, so at the end of the plan, or in an Excel sheet that is also provided as the annex. Also for the cost and financing in the annex, we can find, some people are really putting in the annex in Word document all the simulation model, but this tends to be very bulky. For me, I rather share it as Excel annex, but usually we don't share the simulation model because we just look at key elements that are copy and paste into the chapter 4, the chapter 4 on cost and financing. So we focus, for instance, on the different policies targets and what are the financial implications. And we look at the distribution of cost and by subsector and by item. Let's say what goes for salaries, what goes for teaching and learning material, what goes for school feeding program, what goes for construction, to give you an example. And if you want, we can share with you, but you can already look at your own plan and see what is there. Otherwise, we can share with you, some plans that we are offering here. Then the last one, the chapter is on implementation and arrangement. You will need to, so this is complemented by the multi-year operation plan that goes into the annex. So in the implementation arrangement is just what we review, this 3-tier organization that you will need to describe. In annexes, usually we like to have the risk assessment that will help us to understand what are the risks for not achieving the plan objectives. So there are could be political risks, technical risks, funding, fiduciary risks. This needs to be highlighted and identified. We also do develop some communication strategy, how you will make sure that this plan and its objective are well known by all the education ecosystem. So it's important also to also cost that strategy. And usually we cost it in one on the multi-year operation plan priority program, so it can go under governance. And then you have the operation plan that go into annex as well. So again, it can be a Word within the plan document itself or as an Excel sheet. And I rather go for Excel sheet because otherwise it can be very bulky. And then you have 300-page document and nobody, it's which cost also. You have to think about the cost of printing those documents. Then we have the final stages. So the plan usually in GP countries or GP seeking countries seeking GP money, you have to appraise the plan, which means it's an assessment that is conducted by an external appraiser, and then it has to be endorsed by the local education groups. But in any case, appraising the plan is very interesting because at the end of the day, it really helps you to assess the robustness, effectiveness, and to what extent your plan is following a series of criteria. And I will review them. Then the plan, once it's endorsed once it's appraised, it has to be endorsed by the leg. Again, this is optional if it's only if you want to get GP money, and then it is adopted by the parliament. So here we are just finalizing by showing you a series of questions that are very important and that you will also need to assess, especially the last, not the first one, but the last 4 are really important for you to address when you will be doing your priority program or fine-tuning it. First, it's important when we appraise the plan to find out how the plan has been appraised, developed. Has it been country-led? Has it been participatory and transparent? So country-led, meaning the ministry is in charge and in the driving seats from the beginning of the process. To what extent it is participatory? Does it include the civil society? Does it include line ministries, where some national level of MOE staff involved? And transparent in the sense that, you know, data was fully disclosed, cost as well. We need to ensure, and that's really key requirement for a plan development process. And remember, the participation is all the more important, you know, to ensure that you get consensus on the issues that the system is facing, on the solution, meaning on the strategies, and on the targets you want to achieve by the end of the plan. And you see how we are building this consensus when you discuss in groups. You are building this consensus. What are the issues and how are we going to overcome those issues? And already we believe that if we have this consensus from the beginning, it will ease later implementation, because everyone knows what is to be expected and what is the role of each of them. Then an important point that you need to really reflect on for your PPs, so your priority program development, is, do you have a solid set of strategies and action that address the key challenges of their sector plan? So again, you will need to ensure that when you review, you will review during your priority program to ensure that it is fully, you need to ensure that all the strategies and action that you have spelled out are addressing the key challenges you are trying you have raised. Also, you need to ensure that are the issues of equity, efficiency, learning adequately addressed? Indeed, equity, are we targeting properly girls and boys? Are we tackling adequately children with special needs? Efficiency, are we using teachers the right way? Are we deploying teachers where they should be deployed? Do kids learn something? Do we have the right learning assessment tools to ensure that we are tracking properly learning, etc., etc.? So it's important that you review your actions, your intervention, your strategy with this equity, efficiency lens as well. Also, you need to see to what extent the different programs are aiming for the objective and the goal. For instance, you need to ensure that between the two of access and equity sub-program, it's consistent throughout TVET and secondary education, but also between secondary education and TVET. We need to ensure coherence in the plan. And also we need to see to what extent the financing is sustainable. And as well, we will look at your MOYP and your result matrix to see if they are properly enabling you to monitor and to implement your plan. So this is a very important checklist for you to look at, and they are part of the requirement when we will assess your product. And well, this is the last session when you will be So today, when you will be doing, this is the last session when we will be doing sorry, I'm getting confused. This week, you will be working on the multi-year operation plan, but over the next weeks, you will need to finalize 3 major products, which are the priority program, the result matrix, and the multi-year operation plan. And as Talia mentioned, you will need to make sure they are all aligned. And you need to, and we will give you this kind of checklist for you to review, your output with this checklist in mind. So I'm ending here. We can aim for very quickly for perhaps 5 minutes Q&A, and then we move to the next, because Talia has many interesting things to show you. So I'm taking 1-2 questions, but in any case, don't worry. As usual, we will go back to you on that together. And remember, yeah, we'll go back to you on that. But I take 1 or 2 burning questions if you have. Clarification, things that were not clear, please go ahead. Nothing? If it's nothing, it's better, because then we can move. Because we have a busy schedule today. So Talia, I will let you move ahead, because I think we need to save time. Thanks
Okay.
for all.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you so much, Dan. So just 1 second, I will get this back into oops, sorry, presentation mode.
And if I can take this seconds, please do listen carefully to the PowerPoints. In the PowerPoint, there are a lot of information, and you should get you will get the same messages, and you can use all our face-to-face meeting together to raise any issues you may have. The floor is yours, Talia.
Thank you so much, Deanne. And yes, I mean, again, just to say, I know we've had these discussions within my group, but the PowerPoint presentations are very, very helpful, and were developed to be step-by-step in order to be a resource for you to go back to. So I would say that should be, if you're hesitating, or if there's something that's a little bit unclear, it's a great resource to be able to take a look at what we've covered in the live sessions. So now I'm going to move ahead and take you through a brief description of what you're going to be doing this week in terms of your group assignment. And I think, as you may have anticipated, this is your opportunity to try your hand at developing a multi-year operational plan. And so let me just click so I can give you an example. So we have created, again, in the same way, a Google Doc for each of your groups, so that you have the opportunity to be working together in parallel. And we've developed this template here, so you'll go ahead and fill in the information. Again, as we've said, the idea is that by the end, when you're submitting your final work, you'll have the same elements across the different documents, so that everything will be aligned. So you'll be looking back and building on the work that you've done in the past to be able to complete this week's work. So I'm not sure if there are any specific questions about the template. Again, it's very much in the same way as we have worked in the past. And of course, you do have the PowerPoint presentation to review. And of course, you can get in contact with your group facilitators at any time if you have specific questions. Okay. Are there any questions about the group assignment, or does that seem quite clear? We'll make sure that you have the links, so that you're able to access your different groups. Okay. Okay, great. And I know, again, thank you so much for all of the work that you've been doing in the last week or so. I know that we have emphasized, that it is a busy period. We are nearing the end of Module 5, and therefore we totally recognize that there have been a lot of different moving parts and a pretty heavy workload. So thank you for all that you've done so far. An important reminder to complete the part 2 of the Unit 2 quiz by this Wednesday, the 9th of November, just before midnight Paris time. And so again, if you did not have the opportunity to complete the part 1 of the quiz, that is now closed. And since the answers from part 1 are in part 2, part 1 is closed, but you can continue on with part 2, which is worth the majority of the marks for the quiz. So please make sure that you do that individual activity. It is quite important. And again, the deadline is Wednesday. So we're also going to ask you to fine-tune your targets and activities using the financial simulation, the whole model, the whole window model, to finalize the assignment on the results matrix for your subsector and thematic area, and complete the assignment on the multi-year operational plan by Sunday, the 13th of November, again, just before midnight, 11:59 p.m. Paris time. Now, I think when Deanne was saying that I had a couple of exciting things to tell you, I guess this is the first, which would be that we would like to hear from you, and it's quite important that we have your feedback on whether or not this is something that would be helpful. So we have created on the platform a poll on whether or not we should extend the deadline for your final submissions and add additional coaching sessions. So there are 2 questions, which we ask ideally if you could participate in the poll by the end of the day today. That would be great to allow us to make a decision on this. So there are 2 questions. One is about whether you need an additional week to finalize your submission. And the other question is about whether you need extra support during this extra week, if it's to be added, to finalize your group assignment. So I'm not sure if we can we'll make sure that you have this link as well. I'm not sure if it's already in the chat, but we can make sure that you have that link as well so that you're able to weigh in and let us know if you feel like having an extension and finishing toward the end of the month would be beneficial for you. So please do let us know, and we'll get back to you with the response, with the results of the poll as soon as possible. The next exciting element that I have to share with you is that we would like to propose, or let you know that we'll be offering 2 additional sessions this week. Again, we recognize that the workload has been pretty heavy. We also recognize that there may be additional questions and work to be done regarding the simulation model. So we have proposed 2 sessions, so tomorrow and Thursday. And so the idea is that they'll be held at exactly the same time as this session. So sort of our typical time slot of 11 a.m. To 1 p.m. Paris time. And we'll get in touch with the Zoom links. Now, we also recognize that since the workload has been heavy, you're all juggling many different things and professional responsibilities. So we do understand that not everyone will be able to come to every session. So they're not compulsory sessions, but we wanted to add these sessions to ensure that you had the support you needed to be able to move ahead with your group assignments and with the work, the collective work on the simulation model. So just to give you an idea of what we have in mind for the next 2 days. So for session 1, which will be tomorrow, again from 11 to 1, we'll have 2 groups in parallel. So it'll be kind of similar to the way that we, will work in the next hour, where we have the opportunity to work together. So the access and quality groups for upper secondary and TVET respectively, obviously working together. And the idea is that we would review the results matrix and fine tune the simulation model to match the results matrix objectives, and then start looking at how to fill out the multi-year operational plan. So again, the idea is to provide that extra support. And then in the next session on Thursday, the 10th of November, we would have 1 group, so kind of like this in plenary, or more so like the session that we had last week, where we're really going through and fine-tuning the targets to come up with a consolidated financial model displaying a suitable financial gap. So that's when we'll go back and forth. So tomorrow's an opportunity to really look at the simulation model on our different sides, and to try to, fine tune the targets and come with something that, you're able to stand behind when we have the discussion all together on Thursday. So those are the additional days that we have in mind in order to provide that additional support. And once again, these sessions are not compulsory, but if you are available, we strongly advise that you join us, because it really is an opportunity to, address any last questions, ensure that you're on the right track, start working to align these different documents, which will end up being your final submission. So it is it's an opportunity, should you be available, to look at the coursework in a little bit more depth, and to address any concerns that you may have, or anything that still seems to be, a little bit confusing or difficult. Maybe I'll just ask whether there are any questions about the additional sessions or anything else. Again, we'll make sure that we share the Zoom link with you shortly, using the medium that we're usually in contact with the groups. So for me, one group, it's typically email, one group, it's typically WhatsApp. And I know that Deanne has WhatsApp chats as well. So we'll make sure that you get the Zoom link so that you're able to join these sessions on Wednesday and Thursday if you would like to. And then just one additional note, Friday, the 11th of November is a holiday in France. So we will not be online from IIP side on the 11th of November. So it's really a great opportunity to have these sessions in advance if you have any questions before the weekend. Any questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, I don't think. Okay. So at that point, I mean, we can go into the breakout rooms unless there's anything else. Dan, I'm not sure if there's anything that you'd like to add. But if not, we can go into the breakout sessions where we'll have an opportunity to look at the work that you completed last week, and again, answer any questions that you may have. Any last points, Dan, before we go into the breakout rooms?
No, I think you said it all. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much. Okay, Amaranta, we are ready to go into our breakout rooms.
Perfect. Okay, I will open the rooms. As you know, we have group 1 and group 2. You already know in which group you are. You just can click on join your group. Okay.
Thanks so much.
The rooms are open now.
Thank you. So TVET, we are group 2, and upper secondary, you're group 1, just in case you need a little refresher.